against the world kind of attitude. Well, let me ask, there's been a chess controversy about cheating and so on that you've covered. People should subscribe to your channel. You're hilarious, entertaining, brilliant, and it's just fun to learn from you. Do you think, as we stand now, Hans ever cheated in over-the-board chess? But as things stand now at the beginning of October?
Yeah, that's a very tough question for a couple of reasons. I think, first of all, when people refer to evidence in regards to whether Hans cheated over the board, there is not, I don't think there ever will be, quote-unquote, hard evidence. The only thing that would ever constitute that is if he's caught in the act. Literally, he's caught like using a phone with an earpiece, whatever it might be. That is the only way that there would ever be hard evidence. So as it stands right now, there's a lot of circumstantial evidence. How much of it is legitimate or not remains to be seen. I know people have questioned the statistics. Some people think it's very convincing. Some people think it's complete nonsense. I think that right now I'm very undecided, but I do feel that within the next 3 to 6 months, assuming Hans is able to play over the board in more tournaments, the stats will make it very clear one way or the other based on our results whether it's legitimate or not. I think for me, I would say that regardless of whether I believe he cheated or not, he is playing probably at least 2,650 no matter what. Regardless of whether he's cheating or not, he's already at that level, which is very, very high. So I think the stats will bear it out in the next I said 3 to 6 months, probably I would say next 6 to 12 months, whether something happens, but I really don't.
Do you find compelling or interesting the kind of analysis where you compare the correlation between engines and humans to try to determine if cheating was done?
So initially I thought that was actually quite legitimate, but as I found out much more recently, anybody can basically upload his data. So that whole theory, what seemed very convincing at the time, it simply isn't any statistical evidence in my opinion now. But there are games from some of those tournaments that definitely, considering where his rating was, looked very suspicious in 2020, I would say. Again, that's not the role of myself to decide or chess.com. That's obviously going to be up to FIDE whether they think that's compelling evidence or not. I think for me, what I would say from an intuitive standpoint is that I've been in this world for a very, very long time. I've seen most of the juniors as they've risen through the ranks, Magnus and many others, and there's always been something about them that has stood out to me. There's been a brilliant game they played against someone who's much higher rated. I've just seen it from all of those players. I never really saw that with Hans Niemann. So it's very difficult for me to sort of, with my own two eyes, being in the chess world so long, see things a certain way, and then something that's never happened before is happening. But at the end of the day, it is still possible. It is completely possible that Hans, something clicked at a certain age and he started improving in spite of the fact that, the statistics look weird in terms of his rating improvement. So I don't know. I think that in 6 to 12 months, I'll probably be able to say one way or the other with very certain confidence, whether he should be there or not.
Speaking of statistics, I should ask, I'm not sure about this. Are you a data scientist?
Right, that's a good one. No, of course I'm not. But that's the thing. You see all these stats are thrown out there, and you try to understand what's being said. But it's also very scary because when you see these things that look very legitimate and then they're disproven, or people say cherry picking, the dates and all these other things, it almost feels like you can come to any conclusion that you want.
Yeah.
And that's why I think this is such a serious issue for the world of chess, because going forward, if we don't take it seriously now, I think at some point there is the potential for a much, much larger scandal.
Do you agree that, what Magnus, I think, said that it is an existential threat to chess? This is a very serious problem that's only going to get bigger, because you're basically, from a spectator perspective, from a competitor perspective, we're not sure that you can trust any of the results.
Yeah, I think that's for sure true. When I think back to the last 5 to 10 years, there's plenty of top level tournaments that I played in where there was no security at all. You just go into the auditorium and play your games, and that was that. So I do think it's a big issue. I think it has been a big issue, but the reason it's only coming to light now is because it features a very strong junior player who's very close to the world police. There have been many cheating scandals before. There was this French player, Sebastian Feller. There was this player, Igor Strauzes from Latvia. There was, I think it was from Belarus, or maybe I have that wrong. It was Bulgaria, Borislav Ivanov as well. Those are three big cheating scandals, but they were not at the absolute top levels of chess, which I think is why it never became the huge news story that this is, or it wasn't viewed in the same kind of way. It's why I think organizers were perhaps a little bit too lax.
So you said 2,650. Is it possible that Hans is in fact a kind of Bobby Fischer level of genius, and he's capable at times of genius at the chessboard?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. That is absolutely possible. I think that's why I think for everybody in the situation, we want to see what happens in the next 6 to 12 months, because I think it will be very clear. Also, it's very interesting to me because there are other stats from that 72-page report that chess.com compiled, which in essence say certain other junior players basically have peaked, that they're not likely to improve further. So it's also going to be very interesting when you look at those, like, I think it was like 50 pages of graphs, because there are graphs that say like some of the other junior players are done. When we look forward like in a year or two, if those players don't improve, it will also say something about their methods as well that they've used for compiling data.
Yeah, I wonder what those junior players do if they look at that data. So there's a point where you should look at yourself like practically. Like what is the actual empirical data over the past year of how much I've improved at a particular thing? I guess it's one thing to kind of tell yourself that these are the ways you need to improve, and it's another to actually look at the data and face the reality of it.
Right. I think also that could have a psychological effect. That is the other thing that makes the whole Han situation so tough, because if you think that he's cheated or you're unsure about what's going on, that is another psychological factor whenever you play against him.
In his favor or
Definitely.
against him?
Definitely in his favor. Because, for example, if I go online and play against you, let's say I go play against Fox, I'm going to play a very certain type of opening strategy, try to keep the board closed, and maybe hope to get one. Now, computers have gotten so good that generally even that doesn't, I don't even have a chance even with flip strategies, but you play differently than you normally would. And so if you're playing a game against him and there's a move that looks really weird, doesn't seem logical at all, that can also start to affect you, where you immediately make a mistake, where you start questioning yourself, you start thinking, well, what's going on here? Is there something unbecoming? Like, you start worrying about what is happening. And so it definitely is, it's a very tough situation.
Do you agree with Magnus's decision to forfeit the match, his most recent match with Hans?
Tough question. I don't, in my heart of hearts, I feel like there had to be a better way to handle it than what Magnus did. On the other hand, sort of being in this world of top grandmasters, having heard these rumors for 2 years, I think that the fact that it was blown off and it wasn't treated seriously, I'm not sure if there was a better option. So in my heart of hearts, I feel like there had to be a better way to handle it. But in practicality, like in the practical